In this episode, Anna and I take a joy flight in a Cessna Centurion over Kakadu National Park. We initially go over the old uranium mine, Ranger, then over the Stone Country and finally onto the floodplains. The pilot gave us an incredibly interesting and detailed commentary, but because it was in headphones, it was unable to be recorded. Uranium was discovered in late 1969. The mine commenced operations in 1980 and ceased operation in 2021 when they couldn't come to an agreement with the Aborigines. I guess they didn't pay them and offer them enough money. The name Kakadu probably originates from a mispronunciation of an Aboriginal word for the language. It's ecologically and biologically diverse. The main features in the park include 4 major river systems, 6 landforms and a remarkable variety of wildlife. The Aborigines have occupied the area since the last 40,000 years. It is renowned for the richness of Aboriginal culture, and there are over 5,000 recorded art sites. Known simply as the Archway, this natural arch is near the border of Kakadu National Park. It's not accessible to the public by land. You can only see it by helicopter or aeroplane. Apparently, helicopters like to hover underneath it, it is so high. The cultural and natural values of Kakadu National Park were recognised internationally when the park was placed on the UNESCO World Heritage List. Kakadu was listed in 3 stages, starting in 1981, second stage in 1987, and the entire park in 1992. The Aboriginal traditional residents of the park are descendants of various clan groups from the Kakadu area and have long-standing affiliations with the country. Their lifestyle has changed in recent years, but their traditional customs and beliefs remain very important to them. About 500 Aborigines live in the park. Many of them are the traditional owners. All of Kakadu is jointly managed by the Aboriginals and the Director of National Parks with the assistance of Parks Australia. Kakadu is in the tropics, between 12 degrees and 14 degrees south. The climate is monsoonal, characterised by a wet season and a dry season. The build-up describes the transition between the dry and the wet, known locally as the suicide season. During the dry season, which usually runs from about April to September, dry southerly and easterly trade winds predominate. Humidity is relatively low and rain is unusual. At Jabiru, the average maximum temperature in July is 32 degrees. During the suicide season, conditions can be extremely uncomfortable with high temperatures and high humidity. During the wet season, water carried down from the Arnhem Land Plateau often overflows from creeks and rivers onto the nearby floodplains. Alluvial soils carried in the floodwaters add nutrients to the floodplains. Nutrient-rich soils, along with an abundance of water and sunlight make the floodplains an area of prolific plant and animal growth. During the dry season, the water recedes into rivers, creeks and isolated waterholes or billabongs. Kakadoo's wetlands are listed under the Convention on Wetlands of International Importance. The introduction of domestic Asian water buffalo from Southeast Asia has resulted in damage to the fragile floodplains and wetlands. Kakadoo's coast and the creeks and river systems under tidal influence, which extends about 100 kilometres inland, make up this landform. The shape of the estuaries and tidal flats varies considerably from the dry season to the wet season. During the dry season, tidal action deposits silts along the river beds and banks. During the wet season, the riverbeds are eroded by floodwaters and large quantities of fresh and saline water flow out across the tidal flats where silt is deposited. Large silt loads are also carried out to sea, some of the silt being deposited as a rich nutrient layer on the seafloor, contributing to the muddy waters that characterise Kakadoo's coastline. The estuaries and tidal flats are home to an array of plants and animals adapted to living in the oxygen-deficient saline mud. The dominant habitats are mangrove swamps and samphire flats. Where freshwater springs occur along the coast and riverbanks, isolated pockets of coastal monsoon rainforests form. Fire is part of the Kakadoo National Park landscape, as the park contains large areas of woodlands and grassy plains that are subject to long periods of dry hot weather. The flora of the region has adapted to frequent fires, and we saw quite a number of fires. Fires in northern Australia are less threatening than in southern Australia, as many of the trees are largely resistant while other plants simply regenerate quite quickly. Controlled burning is also practiced in the park in consultation with the Aborigines, who've used fire as land management for thousands of years. Fire is an important hunting tool for them, as it is used to flush out prey. The other benefit is that once fire has gone through an area, the tender shoots of the fast regenerating grasses attract wallabies into a clearly defined area. Birds of prey, such as whistling kites, also rely on fire to flush out small animals and are usually found in large numbers circling the fire front. We were told that the kite is also known as the firebird because it has been known to pick up an ember and drop it further down to start another fire. Large saltwater crocodiles are also commonplace, and visitors are likely to see them at Yellowwater and East Alligator River. So it is no coincidence that the Crocodile Dundee films were shot here. Visitors are naturally urged to exercise caution around crocodiles, as they will bite you. Kakadoo National Park reintroduced a park use fee in April 2010. The idea is to help maintain the natural and cultural values of the park and improve visitor service. The propaganda says that, like many World Heritage Sites around the world, including Yellowstone, Serengeti, Stonehenge, Pompeii, etc., the park use fee helps maintain world's best management practices and facilities for the more than 200,000 visitors who experience Kakadoo each year. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to go down below, click like and subscribe. And so it's Do Visenja until we meet again in the next episode.